Okay, we are recording.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Brittany, introduce yourself.
Yes. Okay. I'm Brittany Stevenson. I am currently in Clovis, California. I am a social work major, and as of right now, I'm just taking 2 other online classes, and then I'll be up in Rexburg in the spring.
That's awesome. Where's
Yeah.
Clovis?
Do you know Fresno?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the city right next to it. So the Fresno Temple is like 15 minutes from my house.
It's so pretty there.
Yeah, it's a nice one. Yep. What about you, Hadley? Where are you at?
So I live in St. Anthony, Idaho,
Okay.
real close to Rexburg. Um, I switched to online after I had my baby, who's now not a baby anymore. He's 2, and I've just been plugging along, taking like anywhere from 5 to 9 credits, trying to finish. And this is my last semester, but I'm originally from Wyoming.
Okay. Congratulations on your last semester.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
I know you're almost done.
I just got an email from Rebecca Applegate. So I replied and asked if she was coming because I asked her if she knew what the meeting link was because she sent out a different link, but then I actually found it. But I asked her if she's coming, so we'll see.
Yeah, because she deleted her. She joined it earlier today. I got a notification saying Rebecca is waiting for you to join in the meeting, but then she's gone off of the Google sheet. Like she deleted her name.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if she's just decided a different time would work better.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that. So I am Michaela. So currently I live in Utah, but we are waiting for our place to open up, and we're going to be moving on campus like within the next month. And I have a 5-month-old little baby girl, and I'll be graduating this December. So
Yippee!
yes, so that's exciting.
Good. What's your major?
I'm majoring in marriage and family studies. I was gonna go for like early childhood education, but then I kind of liked how this one was like a more general, not specific, and I could do it online while I had the baby as well. So
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
yes, yes. What did you say? You were social work. What was yours, Hadley?
Mine's biology.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, this is just kind of a random last credit classes that I like.
I see. Awesome.
Oh, she texted me. She said she needs the link. Okay. Well, glad that got a hold of her. This page. Oh goodness. I'm struggling here. Glad she said that she's visiting her brother in the hospital.
Oh no.
I'm sure she could do a different group if she needed.
Yeah.
She said she just lost track of time, but she's ready.
Okay.
So we'll just have to. Okay, I sent it. So hopefully she'll be here in just a minute.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can get started talking about our general ideas, I guess, while we wait for her.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
So something that I noticed from it, from the reading, was the clear information part. And like in it when it said clear and congruent messages facilitated all family functionings. In highly stressful situations, communication easily breaks down. And I think that that's like a huge thing that happened with this family is it definitely got the communication was like very broken down, and they did not, yeah, they like their different feelings and things that they felt with one another were being taken the wrong way amongst each other. And I think that communication was one of the key things that was really bad for them.
Yeah, that was like one of the main things that I noticed because, yeah, it said like in chapter 6, the clarity, clear, consistent messages or whatever, that was not at all what was happening. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like all their intentions were so good. Like they wanted to make sure that they were having a good family and like that there was love there,
Yeah.
but they were all misinterpreting it. Oh man, it got real bad. So that was a really good because it was amazing how quickly they were all hoping that the other person would understand their actions, and all it was doing was tearing them apart.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree on that. On that note, I thought it was interesting how, dang it, I just lost my train of thought. I'm very scatterbrained at times, so if none of what I'm saying makes sense, that's just me. But I thought it was interesting how they interacted in the beginning. I felt the therapist did a good job at getting them to open up, and he slowly talked to them about like the move and what was going on with Jimmy and his hobbies. I thought that was a great way of treating it as a therapy session without actually treating it like a counseling session, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is like, if you got to read chapter 7, yeah, I don't know if you got, oh, my video's off. Hi, guys. I don't know if you got to chapter, oh, hi, Valerie.
Hi, sorry, I'm just leaving the hospital.
You're okay. Glad we caught you.
Yeah, me too.
What was your last name, Valerie?
Bachman, Bachman.
I don't know if you guys were able to get to chapter 7 yet, but like there was a part in there that I felt like totally what you were saying. It's all about like how we should validate and break down those walls because a lot of times people are not listening to these struggles. Like as a therapist, that's so important that you are listening and have that active listening and ask questions, are interested. And he did way good at that.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of like how you're saying, like they all had these good intentions, and it was just like the way it was being portrayed that came across wrong. Like, yeah, you have to break down those walls because they all had these good intentions, you know?
Yeah.
That's a good point. I haven't read chapter 7 yet, but there is a page in this week's in chapter 6 I highlighted. And let's see. It says communication processes facilitate resilience by bringing clarity to adverse situations, encouraging open emotional sharing, and fostering collaborative problem solving and proactive planning. And I think like that's kind of what in the video we watched all about is like how they should communicate as a family and truly listen to each other. And I think that point in chapter 6 hits the mark on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely something that was missing. It was just contention and nobody feeling like they were being heard because they weren't listening. Just caused so much dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Jimmy didn't really get a chance to talk, but when he was given the chance, like other times, you could see that he resisted it, like because he was already so frustrated. So I feel like it was so necessary that they had the facilitator of the like of that session, or they wouldn't have made any progress.
Yeah, it's kind of like how they every night it seems like they try to hash it out, but obviously they get nowhere because there's no one there to like referee kind of thing.
Speaking of no one being there to referee, like that was the other really big thing that I felt throughout the whole thing was that Jimmy didn't want to be there. He felt like justified not being home because his dad wasn't home.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was that way because his parents had been so aloof and like not there. And so like it was just this bad cycle of like not being present. And like the dad just kept saying, oh well, it's okay, he'll figure it out. Like he just didn't seem as concerned or invested in the whole thing as the mom did. And there's just like the unbalance of that parenting.
For sure. Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, when they started saying it, she was saying her concerns, and then the dad's like, well, I'm not really as concerned. I'm like, you guys have to be on the same page because that's like putting them at each other, and that's not going to help their relationship any, like you got to be on the same page.
100%. So in the chapter 6 that was labeled as like the couple and co-parent relationship, that whole part, because they just did not, it was so infuriating for me that they'd sit there holding hands and just completely disagree or like, like I was just
Yeah,
like, oh.
for sure.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that.
I think another one for me was the positive interactions, where it said positive interactions are essential for resilience when family life is saturated with problems, suffering, and struggling. I think that it also works for this because, like as Jimmy was saying, that he didn't feel cared about because he didn't have any of that like positive interactions because it was all just negativity and being yelled at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like even the beginning of I'd say the majority of the like session was focused on negative things.
Yeah, for
But I
sure.
think that was kind of necessary. They kind of had to get it out. But they really didn't focus much on things that were positive. Like they talked about camping, but then they were like, yeah, but we don't get to do that anymore. It's like, oh. And so it just kind of was like the only positive thing they talked about was NASCAR and the skateboarding.
Right, and that wasn't even a thing that was like as a whole. It was like
Yeah.
personal things.
So I just kind of felt like that was something that definitely needed to be there to help build these relationships. They needed to like share positive experiences together. But I felt like they were trying to like set the stage for that
Mm-hmm.
by the dates and the like going to get soda and
Right, true, that's true, yeah. So,
they just hadn't had those.
Yeah. I went back to the transcript and I'm looking at the ending again. And the part where Maddie says, I don't know, I guess I don't have to tattle on Jimmy all the time. And then the classic siblings. And then the therapist says, there are other ways I can show him I love him and care about him. And it just ends with her saying, yeah. So I think maybe it could have ended with the therapist maybe possibly asking her what ways she can show Jimmy that she cares about him.
Would have been more specific for sure.
Yeah. Like if, not a homework assignment, but more just maybe do something nice for him.
That's like what we've talked about having, like, in our case studies when we've been told, like, don't just say encourage love in the home. It's like, that's great. Yeah, we want that. But what does that look like for this family? So I think that was a really good point. They didn't really have super specific goals, just like pointed out problems that they had. And granted, it was their first session. So you got to give them a little slack, but definitely that's something that needs to happen, is like more specific outline. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Her name is Maddie, right? Mallory was the mom.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if I remember right.
I just, in all my notes, I said the sister, the mother, the dad, and Jimmy.
Yeah.
But let me see. There was another. If anyone else has something to share, they can share it. Oh, for the future, for like in the reading, it talked about future expectations and how that's an important thing to like address in all of this. And I feel like they touched on it right at the very end when they're saying, like, in the next, you come back and report to me after your little council on Sunday. They're going to have like a little 30-minute council to figure out how Jimmy could communicate with his parents in a way that he was comfortable with and that his parents were comfortable with, and to like move forward to them being able to give him increased independence of being like an adult and out of the house, but still living by the rules. And so I think that was like a good way that they tried to look into the future, like make plans and make it work.
Another thing I was just thinking of was kind of what we've been talking about, collaborative problem solving and the proactive approach. You saw that with like what you're saying from the reading, like that's exactly what you're saying with how he had the council, or he back after the council, and like you said, it gives him more independence and stuff like that.
And that it wasn't just like the parents setting new rules, but it's them working together. Like, right. I think that is the important thing to realize, is like, when the best way to make these things work isn't the mom just like becoming more firm and yelling more and setting these like more strict rules, but it's going to be like, looks like them working together to come up with solutions. Like, what was that called again? I wrote it somewhere. The collaborative problem solving, right? And creative brainstorming. Those parts were that we read about. It's definitely going to take like that. We read, and it talks about negotiation and the fairness and the
reciprocating.
Yeah, reciprocating. Yeah. I don't know how to. It's like reciprocity. And because it's going to have to go both ways. Like, it can't just be the mom attacking Jimmy or Jimmy like just coming up with his own rules. It needs to be like a two-way street that they're coming up with this. So
yeah, I was just about to ask, what ways do you think they could solve their communication issue?
Boy.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's in like a lot of the case studies and examples that we've shared, in like past discussions, I think it's so interesting that a lot of times the issues could be solved just by sitting down and talking to each other.
Mhm.
And it's just so, it's funny that like people at times can't bring themselves to do that. I think it's so interesting.
It's like sometimes I think they believe it'll make the contention worse, or I don't know, like, because it seems so obvious to us as like looking down on the situations, like, yeah, you need to do this because it's the only way you're gonna make any progress. But sorry, that's my nephew.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
Did we lose Valerie? I think her thing is frozen.
And I haven't-
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you're here? Good.
Me? I think I read the wrong case because the one I read is all about like Zach and his illness and stuff.
So
So I'm like trying to find one.
there's the case study, and then there was like a video that we had to watch before doing this, and it was all about like an interview or like a family therapy session kind of a thing.
Oh, shoot.
If
Okay.
you want, like, you could jump on with another person's later on this week so you know what's happening.
Maybe I'll try that. Yeah. Is there? Can I still do that though? I figured it'd all be closed up by now.
I think so because Rebecca actually just emailed me and said she joined a different group just like a little bit ago. She
Okay.
Yeah.
dropped and
Uh-oh,
went to a different
okay.
one.
Sick.
Yeah, there's still some that are open. Like, let's see. Oh, maybe there are some that are open. I think if you emailed her, she would be willing to work with you, because it'd be better that you're prepared and you're an extra person in a group than
Mhm.
not get credit because you weren't ready. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
But something else that I felt like was really important to talk about. I don't know if Valerie's talking or if it's just glitching.
I don't know. I think it's just glitching.
Okay. I can't hear you, Valerie, if you are talking. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
No.
I'm saying I don't. Mine's like not even like picking her up at all.
Yeah. Oh, she
Mm.
Oh.
So, darn. One thing that I thought was really obvious to me was that there was like, even if there was communication, even during the thing, like you said earlier, Brittany, I think, about there needing to be clarity of the communication and like how important that was. But like Jimmy, every single time he'd be like, yeah, I guess, like, sort of, like, I kind of feel like this. And it was like the most indecisive, frustrating thing. He was just like so I don't know how to like describe that, but like definitely did not. Then he'd like try to, the interviewer guy would like say, okay, so is this what you're trying to say? And he'd be like, yeah, I guess you could say that. So it's like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know if he was like putting words into his mouth or if it was really what he felt like. It just didn't feel super genuine.
Mhm.
It was
True.
hard for like the rest of the family to like make progress.
Mhm. Yes.
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
And that goes along with so the clarify and share crucial information from the reading when it was like not only about like the event and like the current situation but also future expectations.
mhm.
Um so like it says the therapist can facilitate meaning making, emotional sharing, informed decision making, and future planning. And I feel like, yeah, it was kind of hard to because Jimmy was kind of so yeah like
But it would be hard to know that everybody's there because they're frustrated with you. So
yeah,
Yeah, that's a
very true.
good point. Like,
he did pretty good.
yeah.
But
Like it's easy for us to be like, oh, he should communicate and like because we're not in those situations.
I did think though that everybody listened to each other very well for it being like a contentious topic.
For sure.
Like nobody really interrupted. There was like one or two times where the sister like jumped in or the mom, but it was like overall very very open, and they were listening, and you could tell they had a desire to like be better. They
Mhm.
wanted to like
Mhm.
changes.
For sure. Also, when you said that, that made me think of like also they didn't get defensive, which is like really good as well because like for instance, when the dad was saying the mom goes crazy, I was kind of like, better words, man, like use better words. And but like she just took it and she's like, yeah, like
They were
I'll
holding
admit it. She like admitted it and like was like, yeah, I'll admit it. She took it and then she like knew she could change from there. Like she didn't defend herself or, you know, kind of thing. So
that was impressive. I would have flipped out
yes.
if my husband called me out like that.
Same, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I definitely commend her for that. Like that's not I think admitting our own faults is what's helpful in conversations like this because you're saying like yes, like I recognize your viewpoint and I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
mm,
Well, okay. I was just looking to making sure we needed to add anything else in our discussion, but I think we're doing good.
Okay.
Um, so there was in the reading, it talked about um, okay, so kind of back to what we talked about earlier about the positive interactions versus like the negative ones. And I felt that we're supposed to also share like the love and the appreciation and like express like share the good qualities about each other. And I didn't feel like that really happened, but it was mostly expressing like the fear of worrying about him and like anger. And but in a way it was also demonstrating like that they did love. That's what the facilitator helped them recognize, is that these were not coming from like a bad place, but they were coming from a place of love. But I would have really liked to have seen like at least some focus on like one good thing that Jimmy does, because there was not one like they did not mention one thing that Jimmy did that was good. And I felt sad for him, like he was totally attacked the whole time. So I don't know.
I agree, yeah. And I think that he too, as we were talking about defensiveness, I think he did good too because like especially when it very first started out and his sister was like, we're here because of like all that. I was like, whoa, like my eyes got big and I was like, this is what it's about, you know. But yeah, I think that he took it really well as well, especially for like you say, the lack of positives about him and
Yeah. I think at times it just takes um like the knowledge of how to go about counsel. I look back at my own roommate counsels in the past and I'm like, wow, like that really wasn't needed, or we could have totally gone about this a better way. So it maybe just experience and maybe having their own family council at times. I don't remember if that was ever mentioned.
They said that they should, like, he encouraged them at the end to do a family council with just the three, like the parents and Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we've been taught in this class the power of councils, like that they can really help. And in other family classes that I've taken, we've really focused on like family councils can help most like problems. And we've discussed like journal keeping, mood logs, mindfulness meditation, that was
Mhm.
called,
Yes.
and stuff like that, where it's like, oh my gosh, just taking a second and breathing through it together really makes a difference, because we realize, oh, we all are struggling. Like this isn't just hard for me. It takes
Mhm.
like takes flips it from being all about you and you're struggling to realizing that, oh, my sister and my mom and my dad are also struggling through this. Okay, I don't know how long. So we started at like 5 after.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think, as long as, do you guys have anything else to talk about? Your notes?
Let's see. I'm looking at during the discussion portion of the group meeting, and I think we hit all the points except, let's see, the last one says discuss and record how a treatment professional or paraprofessional might prepare to capitalize on such opportunities to introduce or reinforce the types of resiliency factors from Walsh's article. So, yeah, I think we hit that point pretty well.
Yeah. The things that I've been mentioning were specifically from Walsh's.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Finish up with the summary.
unless they want us to talk about like last week's resiliency factors, but I don't know if I can remember those.
I know.
I know. I did this case study yesterday, the video, and I'm already forgotten like half of it.
Thank goodness for notes, right?
And I feel like there's like a lot of good information. It's kind of hard to remember all the specifics. It's like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. But it's hard to remember every little thing.
Those chapters are not short, and they sometimes repeat each other, like referencing back, oh, and let's reapply this here. So by the time you're done, you're like, where did I even?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Or if they have classes that are similar to each other and they just start like overlapping. It's awesome. Okay,
Yep.
so Michaela, if you want to just kind of go through the summary and we'll make sure that we like it. Then we're
Sounds good. And then who's has the link? Cadley, were you
Yeah,
doing it? Okay, so I'll just email this to you. Does that work?
yeah, that's perfect. And then don't forget to do the, I mean, I know you guys won't, but I almost did last week. Or last time we did one of these, I forgot to do the, till like last second, the, what's it called? Like evaluation,
Oh yeah, the grading yourself thing.
which was like, took 2 seconds, but I didn't see it. Well,
Yeah.
oh, I hope Valerie figures it out.
I know.
Do we need to keep recording this part?
I have no idea.
I mean, we're going to be submitting our final thing. It's not really our discussion. So if
Yeah.
I quit recording this part, then